Bonjour. Let's look at how to ask simple yes or no questions in French. Learning how to ask a question in another language is a very important skill. If you travel or if you meet somebody new, you're going to want to be able to ask them some questions. And this could help with your survival as you're traveling or meeting new people. You'll certainly want to be able to ask questions as you go. First of all, today we're just looking at simple yes or no questions. We'll learn later about who, what, when, where, why information questions. These are just easy yes no questions, and forming them is pretty straightforward. The phrase poser des questions is to ask questions. You pose questions in French. Poser des questions. Une question, feminine, is a question. Une question. And there are three simple ways to ask an easy yes or no question. The first is intonation, aka changing your voice to make a statement into a question. You can add the phrase est-ce que at the beginning of your question, or you can add something at the end which is called a tag. You can ask a tag question, which is something that also exists in English. Let's look at these three different strategies. The first strategy is the easiest one. To ask a simple yes or no question using intonation, you change the intonation of your voice. Intonation means the tones of your voice, whether it's high or low, up or down. What you're going to do is make your statement, the statement that you've written down or the statement that you want to make, but you raise your voice at the end to make it into a question instead of a statement. So most statements end with a neutral or down kind of sound, like you live in Lyon, you all like French class, and it stays pretty neutral. We do this in English to make a statement into a question. We just raise our voice, shrug our shoulders a little bit, add a question mark at the end because punctuation is important. Don't forget your question marks. And so instead you'll say, you live in Lyon, you all like French class? Then your voice goes up at the end a little bit. So here are these two sentences as statements. Tu habites à Lyon. Vous aimez le cours de français. To make these statements into questions, I will lift my voice at the end. Tu habites à Lyon. Vous aimez le cours de français. And your facial expressions and your hand gestures, those will help turn statements into questions too. That's it. For intonation, you raise your voice at the end. Tu habites à Lyon. Vous aimez le cours de français. The "et" at the end means I'm asking you something. A slightly more complicated way to ask a yes or no question is to raise your voice at the end, but to put the phrase est-ce que, yes, all of that is pronounced est-ce que, put est-ce que at the beginning. So est-ce que literally means is it that? And it's almost like you're starting every sentence with, is it true that? Is it true that you do this? Is it true that you do that? Est-ce que goes at the front of a statement and then is followed by your normal statement turned into a question. For example, tu parles français, you speak French, becomes est-ce que tu parles français? Est-ce que tu parles français? Is it that you speak French? AKA, is it true that you speak French? Yes or no? Est-ce que tu aimes la pizza? Do you like pizza? Is it true that you like pizza? So est-ce que goes in front of your yes or no question. Starting with est-ce que is slightly more formal than intonation, and also it kind of denotes from the very beginning, hey, you, I'm asking you a yes or no question here, rather than waiting for my voice to go up at the end and go, tu parles français? If I start with est-ce que, you know right away that I'm about to hit you with a yes or no question. So that's a benefit of est-ce que. It's also slightly more formal, just a little bit more. If the next word starts with a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, or a vowel sound like the letter H, a silent H in French, use esque, Q-U apostrophe, build a contraction between those two words to bring those sounds together and make your speaking or writing smooth. For example, you don't want to say est-ce que elle. Instead of est-ce que elle, you're going to say est-ce qu'elle. Est-ce qu'elle aime voyager? Est-ce qu'elle aime voyager? Does she like to travel? Est-ce qu'elle aime voyager? So I can use intonation, raise my voice. Even more clear is putting est-ce que at the front of a statement, turning it into a question. Lastly, you can do something called a tag question. We do this in English as well. You tack something onto the end, you tag a little extra word on the end to check for correctness, and to make sure something's right. Examples of tag questions in English, right? No? Isn't it? Don't you? Didn't she? Wouldn't you? Stuff like that. In French, it's very simple. There are a couple of stock common tag phrases that you put at the end, one of the biggest ones being n'est-ce pas. N'est-ce pas literally means is it not? Like, isn't that true? So if est-ce que is it true that, n'est-ce pas is isn't it? And it can mean like right, doesn't she, won't you? For example, and just to point out, this is not formal at all. This is just with speaking or informal writing. You just tag a question on at the end. Vous travaillez bientôt, n'est-ce pas? You work soon, don't you? Vous travaillez bientôt, n'est-ce pas? You all work soon. Is it not true? Another example is to use the word okay, which is d'accord. On mange ensemble, d'accord? We're eating together, okay? Right? Here are some more examples of tag questions. You can put a lot of these on the end to just be like, right? No, isn't it? So you could say, which is just like, huh? Like, you're really tired, huh? T'es très fatigué, hein? Hein? You could say, n'est-ce pas? That's the most common tag question. N'est-ce pas, right? This one's very formal. C'est bien cela? Is that it? C'est ça? Is that it? Less formal. Ou non, or no, ou pas, or not. Oui, yes. So you could do that and say, tu parles español, oui? You speak Spanish, yes? That's an easy way to pose a yes or no question. You could put a pas vrai on the end, like, isn't that true? You could say okay with d'accord, or you could also say okay, or you could ask no, no. For example, do you like to ski? Tu aimes faire du ski, hein? Tu aimes faire du ski, n'est-ce pas? Tu aimes faire du ski, c'est bien cela. You speak French. Tu parles français, c'est ça? Tu parles français ou non? Tu parles français ou pas? Do you study history? Tu étudies l'histoire, oui? Tu étudies l'histoire, pas vrai? Tu étudies l'histoire, d'accord? You're coming with me. Tu viens avec moi, okay? Tu viens avec moi, non? They're just easy little things you put on the end to check that it's a yes or no. Real quick quiz. What kind of question is this? Est-ce que tu travailles à la bibliothèque? Est-ce que tu travailles à la bibliothèque? That's an ESCO question. Is it that you work at the library? Il est américain? Il est américain? That's just me raising my voice, so that's intonation. Vous détestez dessiner, c'est ça? Vous détestez dessiner, c'est ça? You hate to draw. Tag question. Isn't that true? Nous ne partageons pas, non? We're not sharing, no. That's a tag. Est-ce que Gabriel voyage en France? Est-ce que Gabriel voyage en France? Is an est-ce que question. Ils aiment l'histoire? Ils aiment l'histoire? It's just me raising my voice a bit. Lastly, what if you got one kind of question and you wanted to pose it differently? There we go. Est-ce que tu travailles à la bibliothèque? Our first question from the last slide. You could drop the est-ce que and just raise your voice. Tu travailles à la bibliothèque? Or you could change it to a tag. Tu travailles à la bibliothèque? Non. Il est américain? If I want to word this differently, I could add a tag at the end. Il est américain, n'est-ce pas? Or to be slightly more formal, est-ce qu'il est américain? I could add esque. Vous détestez dessiner, c'est ça? I could say just intonation, vous détestez dessiner? Or I could do esque. Est-ce que vous détestez dessiner? Hopefully that helps a little bit with learning how to poser des questions in French. These are just simple yes or no questions. Up next, we will look at inversion questions, and then later on, we'll learn about information questions like why, where, with whom. Au revoir.